right. Good. Okay. All right, we're going to call the special meeting on Tuesday, July 25th, 5 p.m. for the Board of Education to order. Phil and Alex will not be joining us tonight. He's having trouble, he said, so I told him not to worry about it. We have a quorum, so. And Alex is running late, so he'll do what he can to come on if he can. Let's see here. So we need to stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. And do we have any public comment this evening? He might just jump off. All right, not seeing any. The big reason we called the meeting tonight is that there is a new STEEP grant that's been brought forward to the town. They weren't expecting one this year. The selectmen are meeting tonight to discuss it. When I talked to Selectman Carlson, he had thought they're going to make some final decisions on how they're going to move forward on the 8th of August. And it's a $500,000 grant, a 20% match, similar to the last one. And the application is due in on August 18th. So there is a selectmen meeting tonight where they're going to have a pretty big discussion about it. So I thought it would be great if Stephanie had mentioned as well that we get together, talk about some of the things that we have coming up and how they might play into the STEEP grant and maybe put our request on the table as well. So does anybody have any thoughts about that?
I think we should do the field now. I think that's like the elephant in the room, right? That's a huge undertaking for us. And this is an amazing way to do it at a 20% cost to the taxpayer. I think additionally, when I was looking over just like what does the state want to see in a STEEP grant project? One of the things that falls under it it's recreational space, right? So we used a long time ago a STEEP grant to put the tennis courts in at the rec center. So this is a project that they like. And based on what I understand about the readiness of the project, well, we haven't RFP'd it yet. That
okay.
seems fine.
It is.
Because we have a study and approximate cost. So I feel like in addition to it sort of being a good decision for us, we also seem to be at the right stage.
Yeah, when I talked to Bob, he said we just need a ballpark quote, which we absolutely have.
Yeah.
And our study should be good enough. So I think the question is, obviously, they're going to be looking at spreading that money around. How much do we want to move forward with, knowing, do we want to just request the amount that maybe would be for the irrigation portion of it? Or do we want to just put a dollar amount towards the field project? And then we can bid that out later per piece, like we're planning on doing with the RFP, or what are your guys' thoughts on that? How much do you want us to ask for? We certainly can't ask for 500,000.
So I'm looking at the email from Ian. And so he says total cost for everything is 230,000. Is that kind of the ballpark number?
From the study.
This was an email that he sent.
That's the
I was-
irrigation number.
Oh,
I was,
that's
but
just-
no, but I was
Irrigation.
confused because originally he said 230 for the whole thing, but I don't think he counted irrigation. I think that was
I think he did.
230 for if we did all of the resurfacing of the fields. But then we should consider doing irrigation. And I think we went the other way, wherein I personally, I think that
Irrigation's
we
first.
focus on irrigation and we get the irrigation done.
Maybe actually, so it is 230. So that's just for the irrigation, right? For all the fields.
And that's including the recreational field at the over on the elementary side.
Is it?
Yeah, because when I look at the study, it's got 45 for soccer and a ballpark of 55 for baseball and softball. So there must be another 130 somewhere.
That's where I'm getting a little confused is from the different emails and the study, like, what it is.
Because if 230 were everything, I would say we asked for 230.
Yes, agreed.
Right.
I don't,
And-
we're not gonna be at 230 for everything. We're gonna be closer to 400 for everything.
But we're just talking irrigation, if you're looking at just using the steep for the irrigation and then looking at other ways to take care of the fields, this would be essential to the upkeep of those fields, right?
Right.
And I think that would go a long way in this grant to helping us secure those funds for this. But the way I'm looking at it, if you're looking at the average for the fields, I'm not sure if it does include the elementary school. It's 50 per field, that's 150. I'm looking at soccer, baseball, softball, that's 150, plus another 30 is 180, plus replace and install those, that's 210 minimum.
Oh, and then.
But
Right, and that
I
includes
thought the
50
replacement of the stuff came secondary. I thought that was our process. I didn't think that they were the ones who did.
I'm looking at total cost for everything on this email from him.
So this email that he sent, that's where that number comes from. That's what we're reading.
And then
Um,
as I added it out, it looks like it's the three main fields. And then what is it, the valves and 2 pumps.
So when I talked to Bob the other night, his feeling was that there aren't going to be other projects necessarily coming forward from other commissions, but he'd like to address some things in this building. The air conditioning, the roof, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I think Christine's right. There are like big dollar signs next to that sort of stuff. But I wonder if we should make the ask for the 230 for the irrigation and then say, and if there's additional money, we'd like to put that towards the resurfacing of the field as well, because we don't want to leave money on the table, right? So if they come back with $150,000 worth of stuff that they need done, I don't think we don't want to leave that there. And I think that they're like, will be with us on that. Like, why leave money on the table?
What was the max?
500K.
500.
It's 500 for the total town.
Mhm.
So. Yeah, I honestly though, I'm not a fields expert, but I feel like based on other people's comments and the fact that the fields used to be in decent shape and that other process, I guess I'm not as worried about the resurfacing of the field as I am about the irrigation at this point, because I think that if we have proper maintenance and irrigation, we're good. I would almost say, let's ask for it. And if there's stuff still on the table, look at our track. You know, the idea of making it actually a wider track or something that the kids can actually be on, that would be better, or anything like that. I know that's a new piece and it's not something that's in our, what we're looking at, but at the same time,
I'm just gonna stop you for a quick second. At the last meeting, we all agreed to move forward with a comprehensive RFP
Yep.
to get basically a menu of what it was going to cost to do the fields soup to nuts, basically. And then we were gonna decide from there, do we just do irrigation, or do we do irrigation and the soccer first, or do we do irrigation and another piece first? So are you proposing that we step away from that decision and now just focus on irrigation and look for something different? I'm just confused. I just want to make sure we're on this. We really went back and forth.
no,
about
and
going
we
forward.
did. And I think that when we look at that menu of things, my focus was going to be on the irrigation.
Okay,
Now, what we have coming forward at the moment, I don't know. Like, I mean, if we ask for, is it more likely that we're going to get just the money for irrigation if we ask just for money for irrigation, or if we ask for $300,000? I don't want to step on toes of the town. I don't know what their numbers.
well,
are gonna
they
look
will
like
make,
and all of those
they
pieces.
will make,
I would
the
focus
final
on the
decision.
irrigation. I think irrigation is
Okay.
something that I would put as my number one on what we need to get done on the fields right now. If we have extra money and we're able to do resurfacing, awesome. I don't know. when it came down to it, if we were gonna be looking at the huge number that they were putting out there for resurfacing the field, it didn't feel worth it to me at that point. So if we're gonna only pay 20% of it, maybe it would.
And I think we have to also kind of dial back the people who looked at it and said the fields are in great shape in the past. A lot has happened to those fields between the past and the present.
Right.
And I don't know if if you can actually repair just with irrigation alone and just some upkeep and fertilizer. I think that's
After the construction project, for sure, there's been some things that have gone on with those fields.
right. So
Christine, was there a
Comp
price?
plan, Christine, just like we sort of voted on, which was like, we're irrigation focused, but we're looking to do the rest of that à la carte menu.
Mhm.
And I think you
as
can
much
have
as
an,
possible.
yeah, and I think it's safe to have an honest conversation with the three of them about, if there's money left, like, we'd also like to do this other stuff. I think that's reasonable, and I think that they're supportive of things that make the town better. So I don't think it has to be like a secret, but I think they should know that we have some numbers, some rough numbers associated with that, and we want to RFP for it as well.
Right.
Can we, at this Board of Selectmen meeting, can we look at what they have that they're proposing as the number and just say, if nobody else is bringing something forward, we'll take
Yes, I
the
think that.
remainder? Is that kind of where we're aiming?
I
Is that
think
our
we
goal?
need to show them that we have this project on the table. We are,
Right.
and that's what I'm trying to get consensus. We are still planning to move forward, correct, with the RFP. Troy has some more information on that. And then irrigation number one. And if there's anything left over, we'd like to continue to use grant money to get our fields up to speed if possible.
Right.
Because we are planning to move forward in some fashion with the field recreation area. And maybe that does include the track or something, and they can write it in a way that's talking about addressing our recreational fields. Track
Christine, was there a monthly
and we
maintenance
can
on that?
decide later, which parts do we want to move forward with based on the RFP? But I think I'm in agreement that we ask for
Oh.
irrigation money, and then anything left, we would
sh-
love to support those
Right.
recommendations.
That's exactly what I was going to say too. I was wondering, well, you just provided the insight on what the other projects may be from what Bob Carlson has in mind, what the Board of Selectmen has in mind. So if we ask for 230,000 plus and like,
230 up to 500.
yeah, like you just, well, like you
Up
just
to
said.
everything
Yeah.
else that
Right.
they
Our
have.
our most important thing is the irrigation. However, we want to finish the
Right,
project.
we
and
are
Any
moving
funds,
forward.
yes, we are moving forward, and any funds available to go towards that, we would like that as well.
Okay, perfect. So I think
What,
we're on the
what was
same
the
page
monthly,
there.
I also wanna
maintenance
add, I
fee
think
on
it
that?
may be worth us
I don't think
getting
they
this
can hear
à la
me.
carte menu, but also thinking for the next year, seeing how these steep grants are coming out, that, okay, so say the selectmen say, no, we're just gonna do the 230. How can we kind of be prepared for next August to say, okay, now we're gonna do this field, now we're gonna do the track or whatever we need.
Was there a timeline for getting the project done? I'm trying to remember what exactly that was, because there was something in play for once you get it. We have to, we have to forward the money and then they reimburse, but I thought there was also a timeline of completion. Is that not true?
I think, I'm not sure. I'll confirm on that. I mean, at this point, it's just getting approved for the grant first. And
But the
so
only
that
issue,
I
would be
don't
if we're
know.
looking at resurfacing of fields, that's on a timeline process of its own, and
But the thing is, depending on when the grant gets distributed or when we run the project, once we have the irrigation in place, a lot of our issues about when we can actually resurface a field kind of alleviate itself, because now you actually have more water that you can pump into the field, where before you only had spring or late summer, early fall, where you could do those resurfacing projects because of,
but this summer they also had the issue with weeds, right?
but
Well,
But
that,
they could apply for a waiver, but they said that the weeds was the big issue in the summer.
correct.
so I think we're kind of just a little bit ahead of ourselves right now. We just
Right.
want to decide, do we want to put forward money to get into the steep grant? And then we can decide from there, figure out the timeline and all of that.
Well, I just don't want to propose something that won't fit within a timeline that's going to be required if we get the steep grant.
Are you staying, Chet?
Hmm?
For the Board of Selectmen meeting? Are you staying? Are you going?
I was not planning on it.
I bet you could ask during public comment,
And I can ask
the
when I'm
timeline is,
proposing
yeah,
as well.
and then you could just have the answer tonight.
Was there a
I'll find out.
monthly maintenance fee on
Phil
that?
has his hand up, by the way.
Okay. Hi, Phil.
I'm sorry, was there a monthly maintenance
You're
fee or what
You're on
for
mute.
Phil, we can't hear
everyday
you.
use?
Your mic's not coming through, Phil.
You're not muted.
No?
You're not muted, but
We just
not
can't hear you. I don't
hearing
think
you.
your microphone's working.
I'm gonna,
Scotty, you want to text
yeah,
me?
yeah.
We'll wait for, go ahead and text me, Phil, if you want, and I'll read the comment. So is everybody comfortable with that? All right. Okay. Yeah, that would be pretty amazing, right? And I think that, and I'll bring up to the forward thinking on the steep grants and stuff. I think part of it
Oh,
is they
shit, I
weren't
can't
expecting
hear
one
the
this year.
text.
So last year we got behind on time and then here we are again in the same place we were last year, but they just weren't expecting it. So hopefully we continue to get that kind of stuff. I think that kind of goes into the RFP discussion a little bit. Troy just got information yesterday on that. If you wanted to touch on that a little bit, Troy, or do you want to wait till non-lapsing?
I was gonna
Okay.
wait for non-lapsing
Okay,
to
sorry.
finish under there.
Okay, we'll wait
Okay.
till we get to the non-lapsing discussion. All right, so when we talk, I'm going to reference the 230,000 plus number. Everybody's comfortable with that? Okay. excellent.
And so then do we have to agree that we're gonna do the 46 now or?
We're basically going to them saying we'd like to be part of the grant
Okay, okay,
application.
okay.
All right. Okay, so thank you guys and thanks for meeting to discuss it. I think it's really important. That brings us up to, we're going to do as much kind of business tonight so that we can focus on the workshop tomorrow night. So it actually works out pretty well. Go ahead with your superintendent.
Yeah, okay. So it seems like we haven't been together for a while. Some things have happened. I did send you an email yesterday about our Allison Mullane, Director of Student Services. Unfortunately, has taken a position in another district, Darien. The timing of this it can be tricky when people are deciding whether to take a job or not. I communicated with you as early as I thought I could, without even a letter of resignation. So usually I'd wait to that point. But anyway, I felt I need to tell you because I needed to also get the position posted immediately. So that was posted yesterday morning. And we have applicants already. There has to be a process. I'm putting together the process. There'll be a fairly large committee to make sure there's representation. There needs to be, a board member. Alex has already agreed to do that, and just never talked. We're probably going to have a parent and some teachers, and for the committee, probably be like 12 people. And it's a big position. We want to have good representation and buy-in to the next candidate that we have. I'm sending out an email to all the staff that work directly under that position to get input on qualities they'd like to see and possible questions they have, and letting them know if they wanted to be on the committee, let me know. But I also have to limit it to make sure we have good representation. I'm hoping that we will run the first round of interviews or the interviews on Thursday, August 3rd, starting later in the afternoon. That's before the 2 week of it being out, but I figure the candidates who are on it looking for a job will have applied, and we need to kind of keep it open for the 2 weeks. So you have a meeting scheduled already for Wednesday, August 9th. And the hiring policy requires that there be a meet and greet and executive session with the board before appointment. Okay, so we want to follow that rule. I think the timing could work as long as we have that meeting. If we wanted to, we could hold a special meeting and an executive session on the Monday or Tuesday before that meeting, if we wanted to do a day before, if indeed we have it kind of narrowed down to a selected candidate. So that's what I know so far about.
Did you say that was a policy
It's okay. So it's
or
it might be a regulation.
okay? Because I was gonna
Okay.
say we didn't when she was hired, when Allison was hired. We
Well,
never met.
when I know the rules, I really like to follow them. And I found those rules.
I'm sorry, I might have missed this. Is it the same exact posting, the assistant principal / director?
No,
Okay.
no, it's not. It's not. It's Director of Student Services only. It's
Only.
a central office
Okay.
position.
Okay. Are there plans for an assistant principal or dean going forward?
no.
No, okay.
No,
Okay.
and there hasn't been. There hasn't been an active assistant principal function at the elementary school.
Mhm.
We do have, teacher leaders who also support that and we, as I proposed, actually adding that position in the budget.
Do we need to update that position then, knowing we're not, because we had moved to having the associate principal as part of that, then the elementary school and central office and everybody kind of determined that wasn't working and wasn't necessary, knowing we're going into administrative contract. Do we need to update the language of that position or any of that, the job description, all of that
Yeah.
prior to this position being filled?
I
Because
don't,
I think she came in with it as being an understanding of
I-
this.
we're,
It doesn't,
yeah.
okay. okay.
There might be some older documents, like in the administrative contract itself. There's some language that needs to be updated. And
Right.
that could just be updated when they negotiate.
When we do the
contract,
contract,
Probably,
okay.
which they're gonna be doing like starting in August.
But it also references that it could be a position that splits into just a director of student services position in that contract, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I believe there was a caveat put
Okay.
into that contract that allowed for that split, and then that's how they figured out some other things for the other associate principal.
Okay.
If I read the contract right a year or so ago.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a little while, so we'll just address that during contract then.
Okay.
Thank you, Troy.
So there'll be, more, information on that as the process proceeds. Regarding the storage trailer, instead of leasing, we made a decision to purchase that. It's under $10,000. So I'm just letting you know that we've done that. And it's in process. The issue is the ones that you could lease, they're, 40 by 8, but they only have a door on the 8-foot end. And it's not efficient to get lawn or snow equipment in and out. So we needed one with the doors on the 40-foot, like garage doors on the 40-foot side. So they don't lease those. They only custom make those for purchase. So we're gonna purchase one, because we need it. And we're gonna do it with Board of Ed money. Bill and I, think we could absorb that at this point in the year, hopefully with savings from, with some health insurance savings. But we needed to get that done and get that moving because we can't be leaving our equipment outside. And it just needs to happen. And I know you guys put the brakes on the actual storage shed we were proposing, and that's fine, but we have to do this. I wanted to mention lawn care.
Can I ask you a quick question about that? How much, how many years of rental savings will it take us on that?
3 years.
Pay for it?
Yeah,
itself?
after 3 years of leasing, you come up to the equivalent of buying, and then you own it. And there's a good chance we will have it for that amount of time, at least. Likely longer. It's gonna be in a spot that's not real, observable from the road and, near the generator, adjacent to the Wheeler Gymnasium. Randy thinks that could be sufficient for him. And I know we were proposing the larger storage shed, but this is kind of a step to meet the immediate needs anyway. And then we don't have to spend non-lapsing money to build the storage shed. Lawn care, we're keeping an eye on it, and I know we've had some comments from people about how the grounds look right now. We've got a lot of rain lately, grass is growing rapidly, weeds growing even more rapidly. And they are mowing every week, the whole area. Some of the weed whacking isn't maybe, or weeding isn't happening because they got a lot of other stuff to do as well. I'll be meeting with Randy. I talked to him today. He thinks they're on top of it. It's going well, but yet there are still things that don't look great right now. It's the middle of the summer. And I think some of that's typical, other things might not be typical for here. But Bill and I are gonna talk to Randy about that. And, you know, it may be that we do hire, you know, a company to come in and do a cleanup, a one-time cleanup or two-time cleanup before the school year starts and get some, help us with the weed whacking and weeding and just kind of clean it up. 'Cause Randy and Alan are the ones doing it and they're working really hard, but they also got the internal, in the building kind of work to do and the stripping of the wax and all that. So as you know, we're trying this out, right? When we reduced the position and assimilated the grounds function into the custodial maintenance department and their new contract, any custodian can now ride a lawnmower or use a weed whacker or paint with a paintbrush, right? So anybody can do anything now. So that's part of our increased efficiencies. All right. And we're still in the period we're trying this, and it may, at some point, I may come back to say, you know what, we really need to hire a landscaper to take care of the grounds. But we're not there yet. We're still trying it. Right. But that's where we're at. CABE Summer Leadership Conference. There was some interest, in going to that. And then we thought I'd bring it to the whole board and just say, this is the agenda of what's going on. Interestingly, they're discussing AI, artificial intelligence. This is a book that I had purchased and I got for all the administrators, and we're now taking a look at it. I'd love to talk to you more about that, and I will. I'm probably gonna address it in convocation. I don't know what that's gonna look like yet, because it's changing so rapidly. But we have to be ready to kind of tell teachers, you know, some guidelines and like, how do you handle this, you know, in classrooms? But that's one of the agenda topics on this. It's at Water's Edge on August 10th, Thursday. I had already signed up because I went last year, just on my own. But if some board members wanted to go, I mean, certainly welcome to go. And it's not that much for us because we are apparently, Irma, you confirmed we are a CABE Express members. So it's only $35 and you get a nice dinner out of it. So if it. Okay, good. So if anybody, I have some copy, I can hand, yeah, we can take a couple and hand them back that way. All right, it'd be great if you wanted to come, if you could. And we could, you know, hang out as a board superintendent, like we could have a table, you know. Okay, I'll ask Ellen if she could drive it. She's got her license now. All right, so there's that, and that's a smaller, more kind of intimate group. It's a nice place. And they do a good job, and you can meet people from other districts and have conversations.
When do you want us to tell you we can make it by?
All right, so we'd like to know, like, probably by the end of this week,
Okay.
so that we can get people registered who
Okay.
are interested. And then there is the annual CABE conference, which, just putting on your radar, November 17th and 18th. And Lisa and Christine and I went last year. And, you know, that's a good one. And if you haven't gone to that yet, as a board member, it's a good experience. So you might want to consider that. And even if you've gone before, you can always learn more. You know, there are some districts that have most of their board members go. But then there are other districts that have nobody go at all. So, I mean, and it could vary from year to year.
Do you think on the, I don't know if this is outside of the box or not, but on the one we were just talking about for August, what was that date?
August 10th.
August 10th, we could open that up to Judy as a prospective board member to attend as well, or is it only for board members? I don't even know what her schedule's like or anything.
I
but-
don't think they're gonna check ID.
Okay.
They're just gonna know the names and they're gonna make name tags with the names. So I think we could.
Okay,
Yeah.
just because it would be nice sometimes to come in the door with a little bit of background information. So I'll get you a slip at the end if that's something you are interested in at all, or if your schedule even allows.
Yeah, and it's a 1 o'clock to 7:15 time on that. So it starts, you know, after lunch, but then they feed you dinner. I enjoyed it last year. I thought it was good. They had a student panel talking and it was good. So I could talk about this a lot, but I'll try to control myself. But I did mention this and I want you to know that, we have our elementary school music teacher that's going to be participating in music curriculum writing with teachers from other small districts like Preston, like Salem, like, Learn, and maybe some others at Learn, actually, with some curriculum experts, and they're going to use artificial intelligence in their curriculum work. And this is, AI can be used as a tool for teachers in many ways. And so it's going to be like cutting edge, like curriculum writing and really focusing on the instructional strategies and assessment activities. And our teacher is very excited to do it. At Learn, they're excited to do it. We really think it's like cutting edge, like work that you can do facilitated with AI. So it's exciting. I'm joining a superintendent group on innovation, and I'm sure that'll be a heavy topic. Wanted to let you know that, and some of you had talked about this, I think, before, maybe in different settings, like the Education Foundation or something, the anonymous alerts. There's been a desire to make it easier for parents and students to report when they feel uncomfortable in school or someone's bothering them. And so this anonymous alerts, people could have an app on their phone and they could make anonymous reports. And then we can communicate back to them if there's a need. And it kind of goes along with our goal one of safe, value, and sense of belonging. And so we'd like to try it, especially because we have a parent that's going to donate the money to get it started for the first year. So how do we say no to that, right? So we're going to get it going. I'm going to meet with the parent in a couple of days. He's going to bring me a check. I think there's a match from his company or something. I'm not saying his name right now because I didn't know if he wants me to say his name, but I will later if he's okay with that. He and she. So that's exciting. We're going to do that. Yeah. I attended the NEASC Chairs Workshop last week. I did confirm there. I said, hey, Fran Kennedy. He's the guy that led the committee that came here. Are we a candidate? Because he never gave me an official word, but I knew we were. He said, oh, yeah, you're a candidate. And then they're doing the presentation. They got a slideshow going up on there and have a little box of all the 6 New England states that they cover. And, they got a school in Vermont that is district accredited, and then they got Connecticut there. And the only one in Connecticut is North Stonington. That's all it says. Because Connecticut has no districts that have district accreditation. And we are the only candidate school. And so we will be the first to have it. And then they pointed me out. They embarrassed me, we're a big, room of all these people that lead these committees. And they're like, oh, and Troy, But anyway, it was kind of neat that like we're like on the map in New England with New England Association of Schools and Colleges that they, and we're kind of, it's another kind of cutting edge thing that we're doing. Many other districts have not done it in New England. We're the first in Connecticut. Really cool. And relating to that, NEASC redid their standards. I showed the administrators today, 2023 standards. They're about the same. They added in some like diversity, DEI language, but they're calling it DEIB. They added the B. I had to look it up if I knew what I meant. Belonging. How fitting is that? Goal 1, safe, valued, and sense of belonging, right? Like it's all coming together now, right? So this is really exciting. And they added that work, like the language in the written curriculum. Kids should be able to see themselves represented. And what they left out was see others. I pointed that out to them. They got the whole mirrors thing going on, but they left out the windows. So I think in the next version, they're probably going to add in that, seeing others part. But anyway, it's a step in a good direction. It empowers districts to do that important work of making sure, we're teaching kids about the whole world and the people that live in it. And I think it's so important. So anyway, that's it. That's not important.
I just have a couple of questions. Is that okay? Sure. Troy, in terms of the Director of Student Services, do you feel like there's anything that you would do differently this time around? I know that the location was here. Would you move it across the street? Would you keep it here? Is there anything that you feel
So-
like we could do differently?
So right now, I'm open to changes. But I want to see, this is why I'm putting out that email, to see like what qualities would you like to see and what questions you have. And I think through that, I might get an idea of how people view it. I've already talked to some people about that very topic. I think the current position was, the CT SED's new software, special ed software, was very cumbersome. There were a lot of things to work out. And I think it required a lot of time in a quieter setting on this side of the street. I think moving forward, if we had if we kept the same person in there, I think they would have more time next year to be in classrooms and working directly and observing teachers and kids and all that. But I think that definitely, even if it's over here, like myself, I can get locked in over here. I need to find ways to get into the schools more. And I already have an idea on that that's going to help me, but this person as well needs to have similar things to get them into the schools more.
That's great. In terms of notification to the board, I know you don't have any control over when someone sends you a letter of resignation. Obviously, you can't notify anyone until that happens. In this particular case, I think it's noteworthy that there was an article in the Patch announcing her on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, I get if she didn't hand you that letter, you can't do anything, but obviously as quickly as we could be
Yeah,
notified.
and we didn't know that. Allison didn't know that.
Yeah.
Allison was surprised by that.
Oh,
I think.
wow.
I don't think she'd mind me saying, but she was hoping that she'd be able to tell her brother herself before he read it in the article.
Yeah.
Okay, so Darien jumped the gun on that announcement, and that's not anybody's fault here.
Yeah, that's super
And we
good.
didn't even know.
Good.
We didn't even know they did it till someone pointed it out.
I
to me
didn't think you would
on-
purposely hold back.
Yeah.
The $10,000 purchase, are we making that out of 22-23 end of the year money or
No.
23-24 anticipated savings?
Right.
Which one?
The second one, the
Okay.
latter.
So it doesn't change Bill's bottom line
No.
number?
No, for last year. It
Got
doesn't
it.
change. It's fiscal year 23. It's fiscal year 24, and we think we could, it's just a priority, and we think we could just make it happen.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Can I ask a few questions? Do you have any updates on the playground? The equipment purchase, did that all go through?
It's all
okay?
been purchased. We got the discount. We hit the deadline, Bill. We got it right under there. We are looking to some people who did some work in Putnam and installing playgrounds to do ours. But once the new equipment comes in, to have them come and do all of it at once.
Okay, so
That's
is there any reason you didn't want to go with Game Time for the install?
I don't know the answer
Okay.
to that.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so that part of the funding that we kind of already set aside was making sure, well, we account for 40%, which is for the install, usually with Game Time.
Oh,
So, I mean, we can certainly do another party, but that's where we ran into some issues last time where he's.
And that was my question. I last minute sent that to Bill, questioning that as well, because we
Okay.
did approve from the non-lapsing
Yeah.
purchase and install. That number was for both.
Yeah,
right. It
Through that
wasn't for a
company.
Specific company to do it, was it?
No, but it just typically, we've had better luck with Game Time.
Okay.
So the pieces that were installed improperly were from another party.
Gotcha.
And so we were kind of hoping because Game Time knows our playground, they kind of know where things are going to
Yeah.
go.
We could look into that. I don't know, Bill might know more than I know at this point in time, but if not, we can
Okay.
look into that if they can do the install.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with, I guess, who's ever cheaper, but just as long as they understand where the plan is. And there was a lot of,
It cheaper needs to take into account the fact that we're redoing
yeah.
what the other people messed up.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, and that was part of it is that we, if you recall, I sent you some of the areas where it needed to move out.
Yes,
and- Oh, okay.
away from the swings.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so, making just sure that those zones are appropriate, for the pieces and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then my other question is, how about the paving of the,
The paving was delayed because of all the rain that we had, and they're now supposed to start July 31st,
okay,
so next week.
okay, great,
Ripping up
thank
the
you.
pavement of at the elementary school playground.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one quick question and that's all. Is there any interest or desire, should we do any sort of an exit interview with Allison to see
We should-
reasoning? I'm just curious if there was something that could have happened differently that would have kept her here. Is
So
that,
I'm just gonna step in on that. The board would not do an exit interview on that. She reports directly to Troy. Troy, when we talked, he's already done that and does that with most positions on their way out the door, I think.
Yeah, and I
oh,
think.
I've seen boards do exit interviews with teachers, with all kinds of people. I just,
board-
no, and it's fine if it's already been done and we have some idea and we know what to change moving forward. That's great. It was such a short period of time. I was really impressed with her work here, and I'm disappointed to see her go. And I just want to
Well-
make sure that if we get that style of a candidate again, that we don't
I don't think.
lose her.
I don't think Allison would mind me sharing, and cause she sent out to the whole staff an email as well, Monday morning, after I posted it. That she really enjoyed her work here. It wasn't anything to do with here, with the people here. It has to do with family, considerations, as personal reasons, that have to do with family. And that is what she said to all the staff. And that's the truth. I think she really did like it here. She was really excited about a lot of the things going on, like the alternative ed program. She was a real strong part of the administrative team. And as you know, she was very articulate and talking to parents and doing presentations for groups. And that was a real strength of hers that we used and could have used more in the future. So I think that, a lot of us are disappointed. I think everybody who worked with her is disappointed, but we also understand when people make a move and it's for reasons that's going to be better for them and their family. So.
All right, any other questions? Phil had a question on the grounds, but I think that you answered it, so we're good with that. I'm not gonna go back over his question. I think he's fine with that. That brings us up to the facilities and finance, the end of year expense report.
The copies of the report were sent yesterday. Far as the year end, the number we're at right now is 36,000. That number should hold. It's now the end of the month. We've been through all the invoices coming in and went through everything, so that number should be good. And people always say, well, subject to the audit. But my experience has been the number never really changes because of the audit. Because it won't change unless it's really something major, and no, there shouldn't be anything like that. The sort of the issue that when you look through the report, and you have the report, it's 4 pages long because you have every account that was budgeted. There's a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of things that are way under, and a lot of things are way over. And so I think going forward, we need to make an adjustment. Now, why doesn't this happen? It doesn't happen because when you increase because you'll spend the whole budget season going, well, how come that went up 100% from last year's budget? Well, the budget's been wrong for 5 years. Because everyone takes the previous year's budget, rolls it forward, and it doesn't spend enough time adjusting the budget to the actuals. Because they don't want to deal with, sitting in meetings going, well, the actuals are really higher than this. You look at like substitute teachers, it's way off. Well, substitute teachers, the price of substitute teachers went way up. There's more need for them. And electricity, we got their solar panels. They never adjusted the buildings for their solar panels. So that's way off. And there was some savings in the health insurance. They never adjusted for that. But the special ed costs are way up because they've been under budgeted for so long. And during COVID, they used COVID money to cover for it. Well, the COVID money's gone away. So now we're using, health insurance money. Well, that, none of this sort of makes sense. And so there's sort of two options. One is so I made some corrections in the current year's budget based on trends that I saw back in January and February, but there's still other areas where we could make adjustments. So we could, amend the current year's budget, then use the amended budget to do next year's budget, or we wait till the budget season, make the adjustments and just, tell people, yes, a lot of accounts have been misbudgeted. And that's why there's a lot of differences between last year's budget and this year's budget. You go by line item. So those are just, some things to think about on how we might want to progress. Okay. It's not changing the bottom line. We can't change the bottom line because that's what the taxpayers voted. So people say, well, the taxpayers, yes, we presented a budget to the taxpayers and we had line items, but the Board of Ed budget is voted on as a single number because in the town budget, it's just 14.5 million. So we can amend the budget without, saying, well, without getting into like legal issues or anything. But you might want to keep it the same and then we adjust it when we do the budget next year. But we're going to use and now in Infinite Visions, I have 3 years of actuals. So we can really do it based on trends and actuals. And so we can make that adjustment. So anyway, I just want to make aware of that because politically you run into, like I just said earlier, well, how come there's all these changes from last year's budget? So anyway, but overall, the budget in total came out great. There was no disasters. There was no emergencies. I wasn't sitting there going, oh no, how are we going to pay for that? And someone asked for something and we couldn't fix it. So the budget number is appropriate in total. We just need to do maybe make it more manageable and use it and a better management tool is to sort of correct some of the line items that are way off. And like I said, going through the whole year, there was no, oh, what are we going to do? Or how are we going to cover this? And a lot of course, we were helped a little bit by the non-lapsing, which is sort of going to be a lot less because we're moving only 36,000 into that account. But we look to next year having an increase in the educational cost sharing grant, which will help a little bit too. It's not final, but it certainly looks that we probably will have an increase this year in the educational cost sharing grant that we didn't budget for. Or the town didn't budget for, I should say. So there are things to do that. So anyway, I think one of things, the finance committee of the board or whoever should, we should have sometime, a discussion about how we want to sort of make the budget more realistic. So when you look at it, so when we're over budget, it means something. It's, oh, well, that wasn't budgeted correctly. Well, why
So
are we way
I-
under there, anyway.
All right, so I appreciate all of that. I think there are explanations for some of this. I want to be cautious to say that we just looked at last year's number and put in another number for this year, because that isn't what we've done in the past for budgeting. I've been building these budgets for a long time with this team, and that's not how we've done it. I can see there are some things, obviously, that you would say, well, we look like we're trending the same, and then we go up, but we have done our due diligence of always looking at line items and trying to say, what did we spend? Do we anticipate that being the next spend next year? I think a lot of these changes can be accounted for, like you just said, the cost for per diem, substitute teachers was much higher than we anticipated. I think there's definitely, the finance committee is going to want to go through this a little bit, and we're hoping to maybe get some clarity on why they were different, not so much that we just budgeted the same thing we always do and it just came out different, because I don't believe that's necessarily the case, maybe on some line items, but a lot of them, especially like the special ed, like you're referencing, we knew last year that we were going short on special ed. We had to do it. We specifically tasked the special ed director with telling us, we're only going to budget exactly what you know is going to be the expense at this point, because we don't want to put in anticipated, because we ran a really lean budget process the year before this one. So I would like to give the finance committee a chance to go through this. My kind of immediate response, and I don't want to speak for the whole board, would be to not change the budget that was approved, but to again have a column of actuals of what's actually going on with the spending, and hoping that, just as I was hoping when we were building the budget this year, we were basing it on last year's actuals, that we would do that again next year. So I do not want to change, personally, I wouldn't want to change numbers that were proposed to the town, and that were, even though they only approve the bottom line, they do look at the entire budget. And I'd be a little uncomfortable kind of erasing those numbers and making them different. I'd like it to be very transparent to see if there's a difference, what it is, and if we can have some kind of explanation for what that is my own personal thought.
No,
Does
I
any-
think that's fine. That's great.
Okay. Does anybody else have any?
Yeah, there's
this-
reasons why we're over, because, yeah. there's
Right. And so I think we just need some time to
some
digest
things
it.
We didn't know ahead of time. I agree.
Yeah,
But I think to Bill's point, as we move forward, the budgets that we build should reflect that 3-year, that 5-year sort of trend. So what we're actually putting in the line item is more of an actual than sometimes Bill's right. And I've seen budgets built this way everywhere, where they just said, "Eh, this is what we did last year, so we're just going to put it back in this way, plus or minus whatever we have to do based on the way that the budget season's going." I think we need to clean those instances up, and then make sure that anywhere else that we have those actuals, where we have the data that tells us this is what it's been, this is what the trend has been, that's what we should be looking at. So it is not where we have to go back and go, well, we were over because of this.
right.
We were under because of this. No, this is where we were. And then if it's a little off one way or another, the explanation's there.
Right. But what I'm saying is there is an explanation for some of
Oh,
these.
yeah, and it's
Right.
not like every category. There's a handful of things that need, really, it's a handful of areas, like energy needs to be sort of adjusted. Benefits maybe need to be fixed, and substitute teachers. So it's just a few, like, we were right on payroll. I mean, we were literally right on all the payroll. So, and where we were a little bit under is because, well, we couldn't hire paras, so, but a lot of them, salary accounts, we were right on a lot of the other supply accounts, we were right on.
Do you
So-
know?
no, it's not like it's a huge thing.
Right. Do you know on the health insurance from what we budgeted for this upcoming fiscal year to what we know it's going to be now, what the difference is? Not total, but are we still thinking we've over budgeted on healthcare, or are we about on that now?
Well, currently we're under budget, but we haven't got all the new teachers in. So we have to sort of wait until September 1st and see what the new teachers sign up for. Whether they sign, it makes a big difference what plans they sign up for, or if they even take our insurance. So it's still a little early for that, but currently we do have we're in good shape, even if a bunch of teachers do sign up, new teachers sign up for the insurance first. We'll still be in good shape in that area.
So I've only been in this seat for about 2 years now. But I've been paying attention to the education budget for many years now. I feel like the Board of Ed has always budgeted for what they know. And so much of a budget is fluid. There's the healthcare, there's energy costs, special education are all, they're all fluid numbers. So I think we've made an effort to budget for them conservatively, but realistically to where, this could happen. So as far as just the actual number, there is no actual number, but you have to plan for a reasonable number. If you go under, if you budget too much, great. We really don't want to go over our budget. It does concern me that, that you stated that we've been doing the budget wrong for 5 years now. I'd like an example of what is unreasonably budgeted in a line item.
Well,
I mean, particular attention is paid to,
I would say the special education and benefit area for the two areas that you see the biggest discrepancy.
those are the two biggest fluid numbers.
Right.
Right.
And like I said, like for last year, I just remember specifically, we didn't know what was coming in district and we weren't accounting for it. We were trying to account for only what we knew for special education. Sometimes somebody will come in district that you don't see it coming. So I do think, especially with Alex not being here, we want to give the finance committee a chance to look this over and talk about how they want to adjust or not adjust based on Bill's recommendation for this upcoming budget. Definitely having it in infinite visions, like you said, Bill's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah,
And
I
that
think-
you now have this 3-year running, I think it's going to help with your
Yeah, I-
explanation to us a much better as
Yeah, I
well.
think I'll be able to just show the trends better
Yeah,
and do a little better analysis of like, maybe why did maintenance take a hit?
right,
Was it a one-time thing, like
right,
couple things or?
right.
that
Because prior to
happened?
now, it wasn't yours to own and understand that. So now you're going to have that understanding. So I'm really looking forward to that. I appreciate all the numbers laid out like this. It's really easy to understand. And
And I don't want to, throw people under the bus, but it always is difficult to do a budget when you're starting in December, in
Right.
January.
right,
So
I know.
it always is difficult.
Um,
And the changeover of people and changeover of software and so, but I think I think we'll have a better, we can do the next budget with the finance committee, we can really show trends and actuals from the last 3 years and we really have a better understanding of budgeting, how the salary budget works in Infinite Vision, so we can have real accurate salary budget too, so.
And we
So-
did have a nice tri-board meeting where I really think we got to kind of have some good back and forth on the budgeting process, and hopefully that just continues to get smoother and more collaborative as we move forward. So I thought that meeting went fairly well. Jamie, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to ask a question. So just, for example, there's one item here that has 1,000% increase, and that's the reading, right? But that was was that for the reading program?
Yeah.
But I think kind of looking back historically, right, you weren't anticipating that, but then you added it. You were actually projecting that it was going to take a couple years, right, to get that in. So it's,
So that was the end of it, end of the year spend, the board decided.
okay, yeah, so I guess it looks like we're way off. So it's on the first page, sorry, yeah,
Yes, it's the elementary reading program.
It's the reading program we just approved.
right, yeah, but I guess just looking at this, it kind of looks like we overspent here, but really that was it's explainable, so, right, so I think we really have to be careful with some of these, like how we explain this, like, yes, this is high, but the reason is because we weren't really planning on doing it, so,
Yeah, a lot of them are explainable.
okay,
In fact, most of them are.
yeah, okay.
But I just would like to maybe. I think, I'm looking at it personally thinking, well, I'd like to be a little closer. the budget to actuals. I guess I'm looking at myself going, oh, there's too, yeah.
Yeah, being off by 5 or 10,000 is one thing. When it's off by 80, you're like, okay, why?
Yeah.
And like you said, we were fortunate. We came out where we needed to come out. We aren't overspending and we aren't underspending to the tune of putting 100,000 in the non-lapsing, which we don't want to be doing either. We want to make sure that we're
No, that's what, yeah, so,
budgeting with
so in-
taxpayer dollars close as
Yeah.
we can, so.
no, in the total, it's great, people did a good job as far as being able to cover the schools and everybody.
Yeah, I know it's clear, but I just want to make sure it's clear that I appreciate Bill looking at this and giving the board some options like this, because this budget here that he's closing off with $36,000 left is not a budget he built, right? That's a budget you all built with the previous central office. So Bill didn't know how this is all going to pan out in this budget until at this point at the end of the year. So had we known how this was going to pan out when we're building fiscal year 24 budget in December, January, we would have used the information we know now to build that budget. So the budget we're living with now, starting July 1st could have been different. So now that I'm glad Bill's paying attention to this. So
Well, we
I
made
think
some,
moving forward, it'll be even better.
and we made some changes in the current year's budget. Okay, I don't want to go on and on, but I think what we'll do is going forward, we'll meet with the finance committee and we'll make sure when we do the new budget for fiscal year 25, we look at the actuals a little more closely, look at the trends. And then when we present the budget, we'll just say, we're trying to get the budget more in line with actuals and not necessarily the previous year's budget. That's all. I think then we can move forward with a more accurate budget by line item. There's a couple other things going on. We had the preliminary audit beginning of July. The auditors came out, there was no issues. The finance department from the town and I met with the auditor and we seemed to, come to agreement with the auditor present and with his help on how to do the monthly reconciliations between the board and the town. So I think we have that sort of all worked out moving forward. And they'll be back in the beginning of September to do the main part of their audit. We received, we had some old copiers that were off lease and over 6 years old, so we have switched them out. And then we're all done on the state contract. We did get 3 bids. Basically, they aren't much different because everyone's on the state contract. And we stayed with the same vendor because there was no complaints about their service, which is really the main issue with copiers. And we had a large copier that we got rid of. So we had a large, which was pretty expensive. So the savings from that will go a long way to cover the lease payments for the new copiers. There shouldn't be much change in the budget. We're doing some work with the phone systems to save some money. We have trying to get rid of a lot of analog lines that we've been paying for and haven't been using, and going to voice over IP. So there's going to be some savings there. And then we have a few major repairs that I've listed. The new one of the rooftop units, compressor blew, has to be replaced, about 13,000. There's some duct work over in by the athletic office and stuff that was never insulated. So we kept wondering why they were having drips. Well, it was never insulated, so on hot, steamy days, condensation. And so we're doing that. It's not a lot of money. And there's some, and one of the wells that we had someone look at, we're capping so we can find it again. That's all that's involved.
You know about how much the
$1,500. The other thing is about $1,500. And we still have the bird damage. We haven't done anything with yet either. So on the elementary school roof. But, in the budget, there's there's a line item called general services is 113,000. Some of that is a catch-all, because every year there's something. So we have money in there for the something that usually happens every year that costs, $10,000-$20,000 repair that comes up usually every year. So, so even though it's a high price items, there is money in the budget for that.
Right, and those are the items I think that we, during the tri-board meeting as well, wanted to talk about what is the cap on those items before the town has to work, not has to, but wants to work with us to consider those as capital items versus just Board of Ed operating repair stuff. So I think there was more work being done there. And Steph, do you recall how that was left, how that discussion was left?
Just that there was going to be more discussion. I think Troy, your email was really helpful and sort of eye-opening for me about just how much money we've spent on maintenance to that building. It's a lot of money when you add it up. So,
That
I
was just a
think
quick
yeah, and
put
when
together of a list, so there's some things I'm sure that didn't get on the list.
I read this report from Bill, it made me think, wow, we have to really make sure that we don't let that drop off the radar because it's going to be paid for either way. We just need to think about it in a way that keeps that at the forefront. And I mean, Sean Murphy actually made the comment, I think at the tri-board meeting that, the town was furious last time at the building project that we hadn't maintained what we had. And so I think that'll be important for us to continue. Bill, can you just tell me, I know that the playground equipment, we already approved. And I think we were supposed to approve the bird damage, right? On Troy's email, it said it wasn't, but I feel like we talked about it
We talked about it.
and I thought we approved it. But so it's like it's 13,000 for the rooftop compressor and 1,500 for the capping.
1,500 for the installation.
And so is that already done? And does that come out of? It's not done.
None of this has been done, actually.
Oh, got it. Okay. I didn't
We
I
just,
didn't understand the
we
tense.
have the
of your-
bids. We got all the quotes now
Okay,
from people to do the work.
but
I-
so,
I feel like I feel like I'm often the one who makes the motions regarding the non-lapsing in terms of the dollar amounts, and I don't recall ever doing the bird damage one. I don't
I
think
feel
it
like we
was done.
talked about it. I
We
just
talked-
don't remember
we talked
like,
about it, but I don't think we ever
didn't do
approved
it.
money to do it. Because I think it also comes under one of those things where is that a non-lapsing thing? 'Cause
Right,
is it
if we
technically
have that
educational
account.
or is it
Yeah.
maintenance? And can maintenance fall under non-lapsing if by state law, the non-lapsing account is only for educational purposes?
right.
So
On the non-lapsing document, it doesn't say that you approved it.
I feel like we talked about it, but maybe didn't do anything with it. I just wanted to know where it fell and if that's coming out of that $130,000.
We haven't done anything yet.
Is that where you anticipate it coming out of?
Haven't really decided we're still in,
You could decide to take it out of non-lapsing if you like, but you have,
Oh, I would not, I would not like.
okay.
How
I
much
just
is
wondered
it?
what the plan
Well,
was.
you didn't,
How much is it? The bird damage?
No, I thought it was around
it's more.
4,000, wasn't it?
we
I mean,
have
all
on
of
this
it
here, we have
in general.
$9,366 on the non-lapsing document.
But that included, that included having a system to scare the birds away.
That's right. It included 3 components.
So
It has, it's.
just really quickly to
It's
answer the earlier
strobe-lights.
question, where it was left at the tri-board was that the Board of Finance was going to be coming up with their definition of what capital was. And then the September meeting was going to focus on where those different things, and one of the asks was that we provided what we have spent, dollar amounts and what it was, so that they could use that as one of the things that they use to define capital.
are we able to hold off on the bird damage repair until we can get a little more clarification on that? Just because I'm wondering if that might be something the town helps us with.
Yeah, well, it's been,
And the compressor,
for
have
a
we already done that, right? We had to do the compressor or have we not yet?
we're putting together the purchase order.
Okay. I'll talk to Bob about that later.
Yeah, but as far as other summer projects, everything else is going along as planned with the tech projects and not that we're doing any major technology this summer, but just, cleaning up the computers and recosting them and that kind of stuff. And as far as school projects, they seem they're on schedule as far as doing the floors and the waxing and all the normal school summer projects seem to be moving along.
Okay. All right, so we will have a finance committee before our August meeting, and we'll dig into this a little bit further. We need to kind of try to wrap it up as quickly as possible. Do we have a few minutes for a non-lapsing update?
Did send out the sheet. There's really nothing new. We did a couple projects got completed and paid for, but there were ones already approved. We haven't added anything to the list or looking to add anything to the list at the moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we were gonna ask the board if they wanted to do is approve paying for the Tom Orwin advisors to run the RFP process, because we now have the basically the contract. We have the contract that they wrote for us. We just got it a few days ago to actually do the RFP, manage the whole bidding process and supervise the project for irrigation and the baseball field, fixing. And we had mentioned that last time, but we didn't vote to do that. It is, the contract, it is like $9,600 for their fee. It's, I'm sorry, no, 69.
16, almost 7,
$6,949.
just under 7.
Can you get that out to the board and we can, if
Yep.
everybody could take a look at it even
Yep.
before tomorrow's meeting and at the end of the workshop, maybe we could add it as an agenda item? So I think we'd all like to read the kind of the language of the contract
Okay.
besides just the pricing. Would that be okay, Troy?
We'll email it to you, yeah. sure,
Okay,
No problem.
okay. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. And if we're not quite ready tomorrow, we can always add a meeting.
We love meetings.
We do. All right, so we are not going to propose for executive session tonight. We're going to take that off the agenda. So we do we have any other public comment this evening? All right, not seeing any. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Anybody?
I'll
else?
second.
All right, Steph seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, guys.